the head of a task force, brand new, to eradicate anti-Christian bias. About time, right? Anti-Christian bias. Yeah, you never heard of that one before, right? But it's about time, isn't it, though, really?
Welcome to the Trash Cats Trashcast. I'm Richard.
I'm Steven.
And today we are deconstructing the White House Faith Office.
Brick by fucking brick. Today we're talking about the vile hypocrisy of the Republican religious. Fuck them all.
Goddamn right.
Dude, I hate it so much. But first, this is a big episode. Big, researchy one. Took us forever to get to it. But we're finally here. Trash Cats, we made it. But first, how was your week?
Week was actually pretty good. I struggled to come up with things to bring up in therapy today because it's been a good week.
You're cured.
Yeah, I'm cured. It's all better. I can proudly say that I'm free of any and all mental illness.
It's cool though. Something I think doesn't get talked about all that much with therapy is like a lot of it is looked at as very acute, like trying to stop the bleeding and cure the immediate problems. But some of the best parts are when you've kind of stemmed the immediate damage and you get to explore the things you didn't really have time or energy for, you know? Yeah,
I realize like he's given me some advice enough that I feel a lot more comfortable in the more immediate stuff. So, and stuff I've been practicing on. So it's like, all right, cool. Like I put some of this stuff into place already and it's already made an effect and made my week go better.
Oh yeah.
So like now what do you want to talk about? And of course I still managed to come up with some shit, but
there's always something to whine about. That's for sure.
I dug through my treasure trove of trauma.
Found a couple trinkets, some gems.
Got a couple trinkets in my treasure trove of trauma.
Well, speaking of treasure, my week's been okay aside from our country sending people to slave dungeons in foreign lands and destroying the worldwide economy, destroying trade.
Now, Stephen, why would they do that?
Because they're really dumb. There's
that does track actually.
I think the short answer is that they're dumb. The long answer, a lot of people have kind of bought into some of the conspiratorial thinking that, especially with the stock market manipulations, like there could be intent there. I think more than that, they're just very predatorial. Like where there's an opening, of course they're going to take advantage. But I think so much of it, just like the tariffs being written by shitty AI, a lot of it is just plain ignorance and lack of understanding how the world works, despite being in such important leadership positions. And then, as bad as the stock market stuff has been, it to me still does not make the top 10 list of heinous, disgusting, hypocritical behavior of this second administration alone. And it's kind of really fucking frustrating how many people just now kind of come along to being critical when it affects their fucking money, but not when we send people to slave camps or round up people, or the IRS decides that they'll use all the information to go after potential illegal immigrants, or just, all of the heinous abuses that get ignored. Suddenly people start to wake up a little bit when it comes to their fucking money. And I think that's just so indicative of the type of mindset that allows this behavior in the first place.
Yeah.
Very disappointing.
It really is. That's actually, you took the words out of my mouth. It's disappointing. It's embarrassing. It's a bad look.
Yeah, dude, it's like straight biblical. Like they've chosen this trajectory based on ideals. And Trump's never been by himself alone like a very strong believer in anything outside of his own ego, right? He wants to be loved and he wants to be known for success, but he's not been like one of these Nazi guys or one of these pure isolationist guys. We've seen him flip-flop on things, even like abortion. He used to be way more liberal. He's hardly a Republican when he started this whole, political venture. But the people around him, especially the religious types, have really dialed him in to being exactly the type of ideologue that he thinks will give him power and help him be embraced by the audience of cultists that he's cultivated.
Yeah.
And
there's a bit of not comfort. That's not the right word. There's a bit of like, he's surrounded by, yes men and people that are just willing to agree with him on anything, or, they push him in directions, but like
vampires
whatever.
and ghouls.
He's the man, and he's in charge, and they pump him up because that's what he needs, and he'll do fucking anything for you if you pump him up.
Yep.
But and there's a bit of comfort in knowing that like he's surrounded by that, so like that's what he thinks he is. And when he steps outside of that, like obviously he gets pushed back. But what that means then is that he's emboldened to do crazier and dumber shit.
Yes.
Because he's just going to do it and fuck the law.
Yep.
And it's absolutely infuriating.
Yeah, we're, at a full, we were at fascism light, but I think we are approaching a point of no return of full fascism when the leader of a country is immune to any prosecution, can expel people to dungeons in other lands because of speech he doesn't like, when we can prosecute or abuse law firms for doing things they don't like, when we can, by executive order, direct the Justice Department to investigate people. And despite this, especially with the stock stuff, he is kind of at his weakest right now. The public has finally begun to turn on him a bit, but what remains is the power, right? He even without the public's embrace, as long as he has that center block of pathetic maggots supporting him, he can still get away with a lot. And I think we're gonna see some really big challenges to democracy and freedom in the coming months. And like you said, all of it really is because of the pack of hyenas festering in the White House that emboldened him. And there's I see the chance of us making through the next even year without widespread violence becoming increasingly low. I think it's becoming pretty catastrophic. And so much of it riding on the back of religiosity. And that's what we're going to get into more specifically today. We were kind of joking that, the meta of all of the crazy political discourse, and, you have to have the extremists the moderates, and you have to attack from all different angles. And today, we're dialing in on our pet issue of hatred for the religious people and their influence on politics.
You know, when you have hate in your heart, Stephen, you have to let it out.
Got to, dude. You got to let it lash out and strike whoever's near.
And today, you know, with Easter either just around the corner or when you're hearing this had already passed by a few days or a couple weeks, who knows? You know,
Couldn't ask
I think
for
it's
a more appropriate time.
Yeah, it's. I think it's right on time. You know, a lot of this news and article shit is from months ago, but
yeah, it's all still in the air, right?
It's still there. It's still a fucking thing to deal with.
So,
and somehow it feels lighthearted. It feels like a lesser issue than so many other things.
Yeah, than world trade crumbling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to preface our episode here, I think it's crucial to state right off the bat and as brutally as possible that the average Christian should absolutely be crucified.
Amen.
While some religions, cough cough, Islam, may be more violent, there is no hypocrisy as vile and cruel as the modern Christian Republican. While preaching love and sucking off Jesus, they condemn non-believers, threaten hellfire, and govern with divine authority. They believe their moral system is quite literally holier than thou, and never hesitate to subjugate those in their political path to power. As our country is beginning to crumble under the rule of a faux Christian and wannabe tyrant, Donald J. Trump, religious influence has begun to play an increasingly pivotal role in our fight for freedom and the future of our nation.
The reality is that 71% of the U.S. identifies with a religion. 67% of the U.S. identifies as Christians, mostly Protestant or Catholic. And Christians made up 72% of the entire voting turnout in 2024. Of those, 56% voted for Trump. So most voters are Christians, and most Christians voted for Trump.
It's such a disgusting, despicable stat. I
want to be clear, too, that the 67% of the U.S. identifies as Christians number, that's not of the 71% of the U.S. that identifies with the religion.
It's total.
Yeah, the amount
total percent of the country, 67% Christian. Yeah, I think it inspires me with such despair. Like the chance of this country ever doing anything good, as soon as I remember that stat, all bets are off. Like I truly have no faith in these people. And it's disgusting. I'm going to say disgusting so many times tonight, to be ruled by such brainless hypocrites. Like these people actually are ruling this country with divine authority and never hesitant to use that authority, to wield that authority with violence. Despite their powerful Christian voting bloc, these pathetic Republicans love to play the victim, whining about religious discrimination while maintaining the majority. And that's where this whole White House faith office came from. It came from justifying their supposed religious discrimination. And I think since they love to embrace that so much, I think we should very much make them feel discriminated. Under Trump's corrupt rule, the authoritarian Christians in our country are making a grab for power. To them, man's law means nothing in comparison to God's. Unhindered, they will shove their beliefs down our throat and strip this country of its freedoms. Our country languishes under the leadership of the United States religious Republicans. The religious power structures of the United States, specifically the dominating Republican Christian element, must be stopped by any means possible. To be publicly agnostic or atheist is not nearly enough. All rational actors must fully embrace an anti-theist mindset in which all religious authority, influence, idols, and patrons must be fully rejected. We must be rejectionists. We must crucify the Christians.
Amen. God bless.
All right, so we're going to kick this off with some general information about this dumbass bullshit. We got an article by Nandita Bose and Donna Sirkal on February 6th from Reuters. No, I said it right. I'm sure of it.
Nailed it.
So we're talking about Trump started this whole White House faith office bullshit, and this is our article to kick it off.
Trump to create religious office in White House, target anti-Christian bias. February 6, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Thursday he would create a White House faith office and direct Attorney General Pam Bondi to lead a task force on eradicating what he called anti-Christian bias within the federal government.
To confront such weaponization and religious persecution, today I'm signing an executive order to make our Attorney General, who's a great person, she's going to be a great Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the head of a task force, brand new, to eradicate anti-Christian bias. About time, right? Anti-Christian bias. Yeah, you never heard of that one before, right? But it's about time, isn't it, though, really? So many times you hear, but you don't hear the anti-Christian bias. The mission of this task force will be to immediately halt all forms of anti-Christian targeting and discrimination within the federal government, including at the DOJ, which was absolutely terrible, the IRS, the FBI, terrible, and other agencies. In addition, the task force will work to fully prosecute anti-Christian violence and vandalism in our society and to move heaven and earth to defend the rights of Christians and religious believers nationwide. You've never had that before, but this is a very powerful document I'm signing. You got it now. First time you've had it. If we don't have religious liberty, then we don't have a free country. We probably don't even have a country. But I'm announcing that I will be creating a brand new presidential commission on religious liberty. It's going to be a very big deal, which will work tirelessly to uphold this most fundamental right. It was God that saved me.
Okay, I know we're just starting, but it's really important to understand exactly who this Pam Bondi villain is, because she's going to be influencing a lot over the next few years, and she is the one that is officially creating the White House faith office.
When Republicans take back the White House, you know what's going to happen? The Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones. The investigators will be investigated, because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows, but now they have a spotlight on them, and they can all be investigated.
So, endorsed by Trump, Pam Bondi is creating the office itself. This White House Faith Task Force is created by the Aryan princess bitch, Pam Bondi.
And our jails are full of people. We want to send these people out of our country when possible.
She's an attorney, lobbyist, and now a politician. You may remember her or be having flashbacks of her representing Trump as his defense attorney during the first impeachment trial.
If you got a ticket for jaywalking, you would have more rights than the president's been afforded. I'm sorry, go ahead, Tony.
I want to point out that we've heard from career diplomats, nonpartisans who have served multiple presidents, and some people who were brought into work for the Trump administration specifically. So I think their concerns are significant, and it sounds like you're going to stick by whatever Gordon Sondland has to say this morning. But the testimony that has already been released regarding him suggests that he does say there was a quid pro quo. So I think a key question here now is he's bragged about having a direct line to the president. He's bragged about being in touch with the president. The president says he barely knew him. So what's the truth?
You know, that one time where a formal House inquiry found that he had solicited foreign interference into the 2020 U.S. presidential election to help his re-election bid, and he obstructed the inquiry itself by telling the administration officials to ignore subpoenas for documents and testimony. That inquiry that reported that Trump withheld military aid and an invitation to the White House from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in order to influence Ukraine to announce an investigation into Trump's political opponent, Joe Biden, and to help promote a discredited conspiracy theory that Ukraine, not Russia, was behind the interference into the 2016 presidential election. Yes. That was the crazy blonde chick that defended him and would screech at the press about how corrupt the impeachment was. This is Pam Bondi.
But President Trump has been out there fighting for us non-stop. And if he's out there fighting for us, we're going to fight for him. God bless you. God bless President Trump, and God bless our great country.
Prior to her being anointed as the Attorney General, she led the legal arm of the Trump-aligned American First Policy Institute and had a bunch of weird connections, primarily financial, to the Church of Scientology. The point is, she's not principled in her beliefs, nor is she qualified for the job.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Her only real qualification for being crowned the United States Attorney General, which is the head of the United States Department of Justice, aka the chief law enforcement officer of the federal government, is being an absolute subservient sycophant who defended Donald Trump, her Fuhrer.
You know, when they let, I think the real number is 15, 16 million people into our country, when they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about, but all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. They're pouring into our country. Nobody's even looking at them. They just come in. The crime is going to be tremendous. The terrorism is going to be. And then we built a tremendous piece of the wall, and then we're going to build more.
On February 5th, 2025, Supreme Court Justice Clarence Trader Thomas swore Bondi into office as the 87th Attorney General. On Bondi's first day in office, she did the following. I just wanted to point this section out because since she's done all kinds of other bizarro, fucked, abusive shit, but just to put it into perspective, on Pam Bondi's first day, this disgusting woman who is creating the White House Faith Office, on her first day as Attorney General, she shut down the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force. So this is like the tenant media, Russia paying people to do propaganda. She shut down all foreign influence tracking by the FBI. She shut down the DOJ's task force, Klepto Capture, whose mission was enforcing sanctions on Russian oligarchs in response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Then she cut back enforcement of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, Traitor. This is basically saying, who the fuck cares if we have people spying in the country? Then she issued orders that directed a select group on the weaponization of the federal government to investigate former special counsel Jack Smith. So these were basically revenge orders to...
100% revenge. There's no other way around that.
Jack Smith was leading prosecution against Trump on leading up to his current presidency, and these are just retaliatory orders to investigate him, essentially. Then she required the Justice Department to prioritize assisting with President Trump's plan for mass deportation, like any true Christian should.
Yeah.
Right? They're so Christian.
Get them
They
out
just
of here.
first day, let's set up mass deportations. And this included
Break up families and get, make people upset and kick them out of their homes. Yeah.
I think on that first day when they talked about going about mass deportations, which we have already seen has in fact started in many ways. I forget, is it Greg Abbott from Texas? He said, hey, if the Trump will send them to us, we will build the camps, right? These are the Christians we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Also on her first day, she prohibited DOJ lawyers from refusing to involve themselves in actions they considered to be unethical. So lawyers at the DOJ were saying, hey, some of these orders are unethical to our career and to themselves personally, and she prohibited them legally from refusing.
Pretty wild.
Yeah. Then she reevaluated consent decrees and settlements with the Justice Department to ensure the prevention of race or sex-based preferences, diversity hiring targets, or preferential treatment based on DEI or DEIA-related criteria, which is just so fucking stupid. And of course, as soon as those planes fall out of the fucking sky because Trump's deleting all the air traffic control people, they just blame it on the black people, basically. That's their MO. Is it MO? Modus operandi? Yeah. And then also, just as Jesus taught, ended the moratorium on federal executions and ordered the Justice Department to assist state and local prosecutors in their attempts to secure death sentences.
Pro-life.
Pam is doing such a fantastic job. I thought maybe you could say a few words.
Thank you, President. As far as we are hearing a lot about fraud, waste, and abuse, a lot of waste and abuse, but there is a tremendous amount of fraud. And Elon, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for your team. You have uncovered so much fraud in our government, and we will prosecute you. We have an internal task force now working with every agency sitting here at this table. And if you've committed fraud, we're coming after you. Thank you, Elon, for that. On the violent crime level, thanks to President Trump's directive, we are seeking the death penalty again. So all of these horrible, violent criminals that you're hearing about around the country, they will face the death penalty federally within our country. And the drug dealers need to get out of here because we are coming after you. We're going to have 94 great U.S. attorneys around this country, and everyone will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Thank you.
Thank you, President. It's at your directive.
I couldn't have said that better. That's very good. That's very good. She's doing a fantastic job. Thanks, Pam.
Yeah, super Christian. And we're seeing this now. I think he's a loser, but the Luigi guy, right?
Yeah.
Bringing him up on terrorism charges, and through some of these changes they've made, the federal government under Trump and Pam Bondi's direction are trying to secure a death sentence conviction.
It's fucking insane. It was premeditated murder at best.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's the Christian power in our government right now. Restore the death penalty and try to get it for anyone they want. And then just for kicks, she halted DOJ funds to sanctuary cities. That's just hilarious. But yeah, this was all Pam Bondi's first day in power. She's a very busy bee.
Jesus fucking Christ. That's like, okay, the question is then how like, when did she know? Okay, I'm building the list of the things I'm gonna do. You don't get there and then within, your 8-hour fucking first day at work, you're like, all right, let me maybe I'll do this. Maybe it's like this was all pre-planned and
absolutely
in place of this is what's going to happen. This is what she's going to do. And then like how many people were, telling her like, these are the things you need to make or you need to make happen.
It's frustrating because Trump's so fucking stupid, but both the religious groups and just the Republican establishment are very, very keen, right? Like, Democrats suck at leading and planning shit. But during Biden's presidency, Trump had lost. he already had a stranglehold on the Republican Party. The Republican Party is dead. It is just MAGA. And during those 4 years, like, it became a meme, but Project 2025, there's trackers on it now, very much has been like, they have stayed very true to that plan. And while Trump...
they're just checking boxes off.
Yeah, while Trump may not give a fuck about it, the ghouls and hyenas and vampires behind him, people like Pam Bondi, Roger Stone, Steve Bannon, these people are very calculated and very keen and planned all of these moves very much ahead of time. And then they put it into the babbling idiot of Trump to, like, kind of get through it or, like, kind of enact things, but more just put the right people into these power positions that they're completely unqualified for. And we watch the chaos reign.
Yeah, and Trump doesn't have any problem with it because as far as that goes, like, then they're the scapegoat.
Yep.
If he kind of can distance himself from it, he's all for it.
Yep. The lawyers that were doing this El Salvador stuff, of course the courts ruled that they were not allowed to have these planes send these people to El Salvador to be imprisoned, and they sent the planes anyway. The Justice Department, their lawyers, put up terrible arguments in court, and Trump didn't like that, so those lawyers were fired. Like, this is the level of authoritarian rule and cruelty even to their own people when they fail to put up a good argument.
Mm-hmm.
There's no loyalty. It's pure pragmatism in a lot of ways. It's just these villains in strong, entrenched positions of power at this point.
I think it's funny, growing up, I heard all the time people talking about, oh, the president's just a puppet, it's all the people around him pulling strings, and, like, it's all these other people, like, he's just the face and whatever. And for the most part, yeah, sure, that's true. Like, it takes a whole group of people to run a country. But it's never been more blatant and out in the obvious open as, like, literally he's just dancing along while they get shit done to support their own efforts.
But he's still more than previous, like, I think previous American history. I think it truly does rely on him. Like, he is more.
Oh yeah, no, like he is the figurehead God King.
Yeah. Unitarian theory.
His face needs to be involved.
They want him to be king so they can do what they want, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So this cruel, authoritarian, hypocrite, traitor cunt has been chosen to establish Trump's White House faith office. Trump delivered remarks at the National Prayer Breakfast at the U.S. Capitol and used his speech to call for unity, telling lawmakers his relationship with religion has changed after a pair of failed assassination attempts last year.
At a second prayer breakfast in Washington, Trump struck a more partisan tone, took a victory lap for getting, quote, rid of woke over the last 2 weeks, and announced steps to protect Christians from what he said was religious discrimination. Quote, the mission of this task force will be to immediately halt all forms of anti-Christian targeting and discrimination within the federal government, including at the DOJ, which was absolutely terrible, the IRS, the FBI, and other agencies, Trump said. Like a typical Trump quote, it's not real sentences. The words don't really flow,
fucking
right?
just rambles, and he just names shit and...
Yeah, and
it's terrible. It's the worst we've ever seen.
Yeah, so for a little context, like, I don't think anyone thinks of, like, the U.S. that's majority Christian as being, like, so anti-Christian, right? Like,
no.
It's a joke. The idea of discrimination towards Christians. We need to discriminate Christians, but this pretext is laughable. Now, what some of this comes from, we have Kash Patel leading the FBI, right?
Yeah.
Any accusations leveled against me that I would somehow put political bias before the Constitution are grotesquely unfair, and I will have you reminded that I have been endorsed by over 300,000 law enforcement officers to become the next director of the FBI. Let's ask them.
Total psycho, writes children books about revenge for the king. Total fucking wacko.
Once upon a time in the land of freedom, the heralds got together and they took away the tweeting by order of the evil old queen. The plot against the king. The plot against the king. Secret keeper Comey and the shifty old knight. Two slugs and a long sticky silver streak of slime. Ew! They tried to make the kingdom all believe the plot against the king. The plot against the king. The plot
It turns out, when he takes his leadership, there were, I believe, some hearings about it prior to his leadership under Joe Biden, but it turns out there was FBI investigations into the Catholic Church. Are you familiar with this?
No.
So this is kind of the pretext of it. Under Joe Biden's leadership, the FBI was investigating the Catholic Church. And as we both know, as conscientious American citizens, is that the president does not direct the FBI, correct?
Right. Yes.
Now, this is changing under Trump, and it's completely shattering political norms. Just today, as we mentioned, he signed executive orders to lead DOJ investigations into people that he doesn't like as political enemies. But historically, the FBI is not directed by the president. Well, during Joe Biden's presidency, the FBI had independently done some investigation into the Catholic Church in relation to past sex scandals. So they either had some informants or undercover agents involved in the Catholic Church. Now, Christian Republicans lost their fucking minds over this.
Of course.
Any hearing that they got a chance to talk about it, like Kash Patel's confirmation hearings, they just would hark on this over and over about how their religion was being targeted and discriminated because the federal government was having the due diligence to investigate sexual crimes of their religion. So nothing even ever really came of the investigations. There's not much known about it. There was no obvious corruption or abuses, but when Kash Patel took the office, people like J.D. Vance and them, they really could play up this Christian targeting. And that pretext has led to this White House faith office, and none of their goals have anything to do with this pretext of discrimination.
Well, Stephen,
just a little backstory.
If they're not allowed to rape people in church, then why would they even bother going to church?
I mean, that's why I heard they all go.
That's what it sounds like. And they can't have, Joe Biden taking that away.
How dare you stop my priest from raping children? How dare you?
It's pretty fucked up. That's their religious freedom to rape and pillage.
Yeah.
So Trump vowed his attorney general would work to fully prosecute, quote, fully prosecute any anti-Christian violence and vandalism in our society and to move heaven and earth to defend the rights of Christians and religious believers nationwide.
The president did not cite any specific examples of this anti-Christian bias during his remarks, but had previously claimed that the Biden administration had used the federal government to target Christians specifically.
Trump signed an executive order on Thursday to establish the task force and its responsibilities, which include recommending steps to terminate violative policies, practices, or conduct.
Biden's administration announced a strategy in December for countering anti-Muslim and anti-Arab bigotry, and a similar plan to fight anti-Semitism in September of 2023. The actions announced on Thursday could pose constitutional question about the separation of church and state, with the U.S. Constitution's First Amendment limiting government's endorsement of religion. So, like I said, the pretext of protecting Christians with this faith office is all bullshit.
Yeah.
The true goal is to entrench Christian authority into the White House in a way that allows Christian influence in the leadership of our government.
Trump, who has become the de facto figurehead of conservative American Christianity, has repeatedly invoked a religious anointing since he survived an assassination attempt last year. Quote, "Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason," Trump has told supporters at events across the country.
The wording's just so funny. Many people have told me. Yeah. He doesn't even believe it himself.
That's the one that kills me is like, oh, God spared my life, but the other guy that was shot behind me, was he like a firefighter or something? He got shot.
That dumbass.
And he died. Like, but you know, that guy's expendable. Fuck him.
God only loves me. And, you know, God saved me so I could restore the death penalty to its former glory.
Exactly.
In the last 3 election cycles, white evangelical Christian voters who make up a critical piece of the Republican base have supported Trump. He has embraced the conservative Christian worldview and policies that speak to the bloc's anxiety about changing gender norms and family patterns. The president on Thursday also announced he will create a White House faith office led by Reverend Paula White, who had served as a religious advisor to him for many years.
All right. Well, let me just crack my knuckles here.
We're getting to the fun stuff.
I did some research here. So,
Paula White.
To say no to President Trump would be saying no to God.
We command all satanic pregnancies to miscarry right now.
It is not found in Antifa, and it is not found in Black Lives Matter, all which are anti-Christ.
I declare that President Trump will overcome every strategy from hell and every strategy of the enemy.
And any tongue that rises against him will be condemned according to the word of God. It's not okay to have an abortion. It's not okay to marry the same sex.
And strike 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 until you have victory.
It is God that raises up a king. It is God that sets one down. And so when you fight against the plan of God, you're fighting against the hand of God. The Supreme Court justices, if we get 2 more, come on, if we get 2 more. And right now, I know right now, we are scaring the literal hell out of demonic spirits by me saying this right now, because if we get 2 more, we will be able to overturn demonic laws and decrees.
Never been hatred like this.
I've never
to
seen
a president.
it. Never in my life. Principalities cannot control this man because he surrounds himself with Christians. He is a Christian.
Have you ever asked God for forgiveness? That's a tough question. I'm not sure I have. I don't bring God into that picture.
Oh yeah. Take a little break there, Steve, and I want to break it down here. For those who don't know, Paula White is a terrible televangelist and a quote-unquote pastor who doesn't seem to believe the sanctity of marriage applies to her and is an overall void of moral consciousness. White became a personal minister to Donald Trump after he watched her television show, and he brought her to Atlantic City on multiple occasions for private quote-unquote Bible studies.
Nice.
And has appeared on her television show. White was part of Trump's Evangelical Advisory Board during his campaign for president and said in 2024 that she owned a condo in Trump Tower in New York for 20 years. In March 2020, amid the COVID-19 pandemic, White led a spiritual healing fundraiser where people were encouraged to donate money to her for their salvation. White let donors know that the money would not go to victims of the disease. Then, in April of the same year, she had promised, quote, supernatural protection, and withdrew from the fundraiser after public backlash.
You can receive these 7 supernatural blessings for you and your house, according to Exodus 23. God will assign an angel to you. He'll be an enemy to your enemies. He'll give you prosperity. He'll take sickness away from you. He will give you long life. He'll bring increase in inheritance. and He'll give a special year of blessing. You're not doing this to get something, but you're doing it in honor to God, realizing what you can receive.
For your special Passover offering of $1,000 or more as the Holy Spirit leads, you will also receive the beautiful 10-inch Waterford Crystal Cross. Don't miss your moment to release 7 supernatural blessings and provision into your life.
Now, this is all crucifiable behavior.
Every little bit of it.
Terrible.
On November 4th, 2020, one day after the election, when election results showed Trump was losing to Joe Biden, White appeared in a prayer service via Facebook Live, where she spoke in tongues and repeatedly called on, quote, angelic reinforcement from, quote, angels from Africa and South America to secure Trump's re-election, as well as, quote, an abundance of rain. The clip went viral across the internet, and White was ridiculed. The appointment of Paula White to lead the White House Faith Office has drawn criticism from Christian leaders, including conservative evangelicals, for several reasons. Some critics argue that White is not biblically qualified to be a pastor, with some pointing out that her role as a female pastor contradicts their interpretation of biblical teachings on church leadership. It's just a little infighting. They can't get their shit together.
Yeah, and I highly encourage high degrees of sexism towards female pastors. Fuck them. No mercy.
Even more cited White's past, including multiple marriages and alleged theft and financial scandals, as well as her taking advantage of vulnerable believers by promising material blessings in exchange for donations as problematic for a religious leader in such a prominent position.
They're all
just problematic.
Liars and scammers, dude.
It's not a damnable thing. It's just problematic. White has been criticized for her religious beliefs by multiple theologians and conservative evangelists, calling her a, quote, heretic and an abomination. Additionally, she has been criticized for claiming to have a doctoral degree when she has no college or seminary degree. In response to her critics, White has said, I have been called a heretic, an apostate, an adulterer, a charlatan, and an addict. It has been falsely reported that I once filed for bankruptcy, and that I deny the Trinity. My life and my decisions have been nowhere near perfect, though nothing like what has been falsely conveyed in the recent days.
I'd like to point out,
noting,
she didn't contradict their claims at all.
At all. She said, I've never once filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah. I say, burn her at the stake.
So, worth noting, along with other televangelists, her ministry, Without Walls International Church, was the subject of a 2007 to 2011 Senate Finance Committee investigation. The committee had investigated financial improprieties that could have affected the religious organization's tax-exempt status. According to the report, Without Walls Church spent $900,000 in tax-exempt ministry funds to pay the mortgage on the couple's waterfront mansion, paid salaries to extended family members, and also paid for their private jet.
Nice.
Without Walls International also claimed in 2012 that White had stolen $600,000 in AV equipment owned by the church to use at her new church in Apopka.
Apopka. Maybe.
But she never filed for bankruptcy. She actually left that church before they filed for bankruptcy, like the month before.
Yeah.
So she wasn't involved in that one.
They filed for bankruptcy after she stole the money.
After she ran it into the dirt.
Bro, Jesus loves jets. I don't know if you knew that, but Jesus loves private jets. He thinks they're really cool.
The bigger the jet, the closer to God.
Yeah, dude, they get you up there. So
the more private it is, the better. You can't have a bunch of pores on your jet. You can't get high enough.
Fuck no. Leave them on the ground, in the dirt where they belong. So Trump, inspired by his religious base, decides to establish the White House Faith Office. He has Pam Bondi lead the charge creating it, and then he gets this fake televangelist, Paula White, scammer, religious leader to lead the office.
We're standing up for a persecuted Christian and so many Christians that have been persecuted all over the world. So horrible what's happened. And defending religious liberty. We had nobody fighting for our Christians in other parts of the world that were being so incredibly destroyed, killed, injured, hurt, but they died. So many died. You wouldn't think that could happen in this time, in this sort of modern time. I proudly created the White House Faith Office and a brand new DOJ task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias. And there is anti-Christian. You don't hear about that very much, but there is anti-Christian bias.
If we don't have religious liberty, then we don't have a free country, Trump said.
But the truth is, if we don't have liberty from religion, we do not have a free country. And I think Trump's infusion of Christianity into our government leadership is absolute tyranny.
100%. Amen. So that's the end of the article.
Yeah. We got some conclusions and then some other aspects to go into. How are you feeling so far?
I
feel
still
fired up, dude.
Yeah, I still feel fired up. I still feel upset. It's still a huge bummer. But I'm trying to channel that rage into actionable, energy, because I mean, crucifying people is
condensed energy.
It's hard work.
Yeah.
It takes some doing. I mean, first you gotta
stamina.
Either build the crucifixes yourself or, outsource it. And then, I'm not, I guess the quality of the construction isn't super necessary. Cause like once you've,
drive the
nailed
nails
them
to
to
the
it,
wrist.
Yeah, like that's most of the doing anyways. If it,
just the hammering.
Yep. It's all the hammering.
It's a lot easier if we just go with the oil and fire method or lions. But I think the most efficient way is to take all that energy and condense it. Pack it down, into tiny little packages, maybe distributed by our mail system and sent to their homes. That's what I would do with all that energy, that white, hot, fiery energy, Put a stamp on it.
Just a bunch of kitten noises.
Meow, meow, meow. In conclusion, not only has our government been fully corrupted by Trump, Elon, and the maggot cult, the remaining government power and influence is up for grabs. And the Christian faction is going all in. This office will operate under the disguise of benefiting all faith groups. They love to talk about how this isn't really a Christian faith office. It's for all faith groups. While the rhetoric of the Oval Office has made it painfully clear, this is for Christian benefit. It will inevitably be abused for Christian ideological gain, as it coincides with the Republican agenda.
And I signed an executive order making it official and the official policy of the United States that God created two genders, male and female. That's not too difficult. So there's so much to celebrate this Easter. This is really, I hope, going to be one of the great Easters ever, because we have something going that I don't think this country has seen in 100 years. And as we gather with family and friends, we'll not forget the true source of our joy and our strength. America has put our trust in God. It will always be in God we trust. We will never change that. There's a movement to change it. It will not happen. We won't let that happen. Can you imagine a movement to change that? Robert, you're not happy about that when you hear that. Look at him. He's getting angrier and angrier. We can get angry too, can't we, huh? No, it's never going to change. And with God's help, we can overcome every challenge, triumph over every evil, and restore the spirit of faith in the United States for generations to come. We have a very simple slogan, make America great again, and that's exactly what we're doing.
To put it bluntly, when you boil down the last 10 years of both the Christian and Republican agendas, the remaining slop is the convergence over their hatred for gays, women, atheists, Muslims, trans people, whichever minority group is currently in their crosshairs, and anyone else that doesn't want to suck Jesus' toes. I find it incredibly frustrating how much most people discount the effects of religious institutions in our government. I think people willfully ignore this for two primary reasons. One, they themselves are religious, and no one wants to go against their own faith even when they know it's wrong. And two, most of the time, the religious influence is more subtle than outright. The influence is enacted through individuals who enact their faith rather than the church's direct influence. The church may tell them gay marriage is wrong and abortion is a sin, but it will be the Christian politicians and voters that outlaw it. While we obviously should combat these people politically, it should be equally as important to war them spiritually. Their belief, their faith, their churches are wrong, and they do not deserve safe harbor, much less tax-exempt status. The idea that the church and state are separate is dead, and the American people are in denial. And while Christian influence may often be subtle, many Christians have been emboldened in the Trump era, hence the rise of Christian nationalism and the increasingly radical messaging of many Christian leaders. This radical political religiosity has culminated into groups like Pastors for Trump, a 50-state organization that aims to revive evangelical support for Trump and the Republican Party. This is from their website.
Pastors for Trump is a coalition of patriot pastors from all 50 states that recognize the importance of Christians engaging in the world we live in as the salt and light. As the spiritual leaders of our nation, we are committed to pray for Donald J. Trump and present our requests before him on issues such as life, marriage, freedom of speech, and personal responsibility. During President Trump's first term, it was very clear that he was intentional to give pastors and Christian leaders a, quote, seat at the table. There has been no president in our lifetime that has been as welcoming to Christian leaders as Donald Trump.
It's so funny because they actually sound that stupid.
Yeah.
Continued, they say, our aim is to continue to build the relationship between Christian leaders and President Trump during his bid for the presidency. The founder of Pastors for Trump is a Pastor Jackson Lamore of Sheridan Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Figures.
Pastors for Trump is the brainchild of an extremist in both religion and politics. Pastor Jackson Lamore is a man who celebrates the union of these two realms. Quote, I will embrace Christian nationalism.
Well, you can't spell it out any harder than that.
Some of his other notable quotes include...
This first one's really good. Alex Jones did nothing wrong.
It was a globalist.
Followed by Fauci is a mass murdering Luciferian. He sounds, I guess if you read it in an Alex Jones kind of voice, anyone can sound like Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Quote, Speaker Pelosi is a demon.
Democrats.
Oh, let's go. Last one. January 6th equals FBI inside job.
Whoa. And then he also has this Christian classic.
Bring out the tanks. Immigration moratorium.
God, he loves Jesus. While these sentiments may not yet dominate the Christian worldview, they certainly are gaining popularity among Republican voters.
According to recent 2024 Pew Research polling, many Americans do think that even though the U.S. shouldn't officially be declared a Christian country, the federal government should promote Christian moral values. And half of the U.S. adults say they think the Bible should have at least some influence in U.S. laws, including 28% who say that if the Bible conflicts with the will of the people, the Bible should have more sway.
Losers!
It's
Kill 'em
fucking
all.
insane.
It's so frustrating, dude. Oh, God.
They want man's law to reflect their God's law. But the truth is that they don't respect either. And they certainly don't respect us and our rights, nor should we respect them and theirs.
Based.
Each year on Ash Wednesday, we watch as many Christians adorn themselves with markings of ashes upon their forehead, a symbol of repentance and a reminder of mortality. I merely propose that this reminder of mortality be embraced.
Fuck yeah, Waka Flocka 'em. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Bro, it makes me want to go Brick Squad when I see them Ash Wednesday ashes. Jesus. Now, if at this point in the episode you're feeling a bit skeptical and you're thinking, yeah, these Christians kind of suck, but obviously not all Christians believe all this shit or want to destroy the country, I will remind you, A, you're wrong. B, you're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And C, while not every Christian might be in support of the Republican agenda and the White House Faith Office, the White House Faith Office is a direct consequence of their beliefs. It is a consequence of their religion and a consequence of their vote. And they are indeed directly responsible. To put it into perspective a bit, here's some of the many things that the Christian influence of our government has resulted in during the Trump era.
In June 2022, Republicans overturned Roe v. Wade, eliminating the federal constitutional right to abortion.
In 2024, Protestant Congressman Eric Burleson introduced the Life at Conception Act, which would declare that an unborn child would be considered legal persons. This would include all stages of life, including the moment of fertilization, cloning, or other moments at which an individual being comes into life.
Quote, every life is a sacred gift from God, deserving of dignity and protection from the moment of conception. End quote.
It is expected that this year, 2025, Republicans will attempt to pass the act through Congress, which will result in a federal ban of abortion. So keep your eyes peeled for that later this year.
Which is great because he made this whole thing about taking it back to the states, and that was fun for sure.
Pretext lies.
Yeah. Needless to say, we know they're scheming up ways to roll back gay marriage.
That's a given. And there's only one other group Christians hate more than the gays, and that's trans kids. Jesus hates trans kids.
Nationwide, we've seen the banning and burning of books, in particular related to gender or race. Christians love burning books.
Now, here's a fun one. Remember that one time Trump had a photo op with the Bible that he held upside down? Well, that was during the George Floyd protest, but Trump really wanted that picture in front of the church. So when crowds of peaceful protesters occupied Lafayette Square in Washington, D.C. to protest police brutality, Trump used the National Guard and tear-gassed them all out. In the years since, it has been revealed that Trump had asked why soldiers could not shoot the protesters. Quote, can't you just shoot them? Just shoot them in the legs or something. End quote. I'd say that's definitionally Christian violence, which brings us to our next Christian villain, our military's new leader, Secretary of Defense Pete Hagseth. Part-time alcoholic, full-time Christian nationalist.
Andrew Breitbart said politics is downstream of culture, and he's right. Culture drives politics first. Politics is a lagging indicator. My pastor, Chris Durkin, took it to the next level about a year ago and said, I remember my wife and I talking about it on the way home, and I wrote about it in the book. Culture is downstream of religion, of faith. If you're devoid of faith in believing in God, you will find another religion, and that religion will drive your culture and eventually drive your politics. And in my particular case, the undertaking this endeavor was an extension of a learning process I've been on where I thought politics was going to fix this. I wrote a political book in 2016. I thought, I'm really interested in politics. I'm get in the arena, fight for it. And then the deeper I dug, and I wrote a book called American Crusade, which in that book I said, someday I'm going to give my degree back when it's the right time. And it wasn't. I don't think my heart was where it needed to be. It wouldn't have had the maximum impact. But that was more about culture. So it went from politics to culture. And when you really strip it back, I mean, I've said this to my kids. If the Lord had called me to be a minister, I would have, but I know that's not my calling. But I think that's the most powerful way you can change lives is by saving souls and by introducing people to Jesus Christ. And I'm hoping in this particular way, through this education and through options, that we're bringing people to that, to salvation, and then saving our republic in the process. So it was a shift of realization in my mind of where you actually win the battle. It's not politics. It's not even culture. It's faith, and it's in the classroom, and it's reviving that, reawakening that's going to reawaken our country.
He's the guy that leaked the war plans or the attack plans. Signalgate.
Christ, that was after we wrote this.
Yeah, I know. Jesus. He's even got all the cool tattoos. Well, during his confirmation hearing, he was repeatedly pressed on whether or not he would have followed Trump's command to shoot protesters in the legs. He refused to say he would not follow Trump's orders.
So that's just a yes.
And that's why he got the job.
That's just a yes.
That's why he got the fucking job. Yeah.
In June of 2020, then President Trump directed former Secretary of Defense Mark Esper to shoot protesters in the legs in downtown D.C., an order Secretary Esper refused to comply with. Would you carry out such an order from President Trump?
Senator, I was in the Washington, D.C. National Guard unit that was in Lafayette Square during those
events. Would you carry out an order to shoot protesters in the legs?
I saw 50 Secret Service agents get injured by rioters trying to jump over the fence, set the church on fire, and destroy a statue.
That sounds to me that you will comply with such an order. You will shoot protesters in the leg.
In his book, American Crusade 2020, Hagseth characterized Americanism as being opposition to movements such as feminism, globalism, Marxism, and progressivism. He also equated democracy to a leftist demand and expressed support for election rigging through gerrymandering to, quote, screw Democrats.
Not to mention, he loves to torture people for God. Now, this is a bit of a longer clip from his recent confirmation hearing, but I think it is really worthwhile for us to hear exactly what the leader of our military believes, especially since our President King Trump is so determined to lead us into war. While Pete may have some valid points, they lead him to terrible and anti-Christian conclusions.
Thank you, Senator Kramer. Senator King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Hagseth, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Senator.
You've made several references to your religion today. I share that devotion to Christianity, but I must say I've been reminded somewhat of Saul on his way to Damascus. You seem to have been converted over the last several weeks and several months. You wrote in your book just last year that, but if we're going to, this is the book War on Warriors, but if we're going to send our boys to fight, and it should be boys, we need to unleash them to win. Later on, our boys should not fight by rules written by dignified men. Which is it? Is it only boys can fight? I mean, you've testified here today that you believe in women in combat, but you didn't just last year. How do you explain your conversion?
Senator, my testimony is clear. Writing a book is different than being Secretary of Defense, and I look forward to leading the men and women of our military. And my comment there, Senator, was about the burdensome rules of engagement that members of our generation, men and women, have seen on the battlefield. And one thing President Trump changed in meaningful ways that led to meaningful developments on the battlefield. When President Trump took control in the first term, ISIS was raging across Iraq. And as someone who spent a lot of time there with other men and women who invested in that mission, it was a very difficult moment to see the black flag of ISIS fly. And what President Trump did was untie the hands of warfighters. He changed the rules of engagement, untied the hands of warfighters, and allowed them to complete their mission and crush ISIS. It has not just tactical implications, operational and strategic implications, how you allow warfighters to go about winning and fighting their wars. President Trump understands that, and within the laws of war and the Uniform Code of Military Justice, we are going to unleash warfighters to win wars so that wars don't drag on forever, as our generation has seen.
So are you rejecting Title 18 and Title 42, I think, also has provisions that incorporate the Geneva Convention and the laws of armed combat? Are you saying that those laws should be repealed? That is the law of the land right now.
Senator, we have laws on the books from the Geneva Conventions into the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and then underneath that you have layers in which standard or temporary rules of engagement are put into place. We fight enemies also, Senator, as our generation understands, that play by no rules. They use civilians as human shields.
So are you saying
they target
that
women and children?
The Geneva Convention should not be observed?
We follow rules. We follow rules, but we don't need burdensome rules of engagement that make it impossible for us to win these wars.
You're saying two different things. You're saying we follow rules, but we don't have to follow the rules in all cases. Is that correct?
Senator, I'm making an important tactical distinction that warfighters will understand, that there are the rules we swear an oath to defend, which are incredibly important, and this committee understands and helps set them. And then there are those echelons above reality, from, corps to division to brigade to battalion, and by the time it trickles down to a company or a platoon or a squad level, you have a rules of engagement that nobody recognizes. And then it makes you incredibly difficult to actually do your job on the battlefield. That's the kind of assessment and look that an Army major will give to this process if I was confirmed to be the Secretary of Defense.
Your quote is
true understanding
your
of that.
quote in 2024, our boys should not fight by rules written by dignified men in mahogany rooms 80 years ago. That would be the Geneva Convention. America should fight by its own rules, and we should fight to win or not go in at all. Are you saying that the Geneva Convention provisions, which clearly outlaw torture of prisoners, should not apply in the future?
Senator, how we treat our wounded, how we treat our prisoners, the applications of the Geneva Conventions are incredibly important. But we would all have to acknowledge that the way we fought our wars back when the Geneva Conventions were written are a lot different than the asymmetric, non-conventional environment of counterinsurgency that I confronted in Iraq and Afghanistan. I was the senior counterinsurgency instructor in Afghanistan. My job was to understand how the Taliban and al-Qaeda operated so that NATO units coming in could be informed of what was happening. They knew our rules of engagement, and when they were more restrictive, they took advantage of them, and it put our men and women in a more dangerous and difficult place.
And you believe
For future wars we fight, we need to have someone atop the Pentagon, sir, who understands how those ripple effects
Well, I just want to understand your
uniform.
position. Your position is torture's okay. Is that correct? Waterboarding, torture is no longer prohibited given the circumstances of whatever war we're in. Is that correct?
Senator, that is not what I said. I've never been party to torture. We are a country that fights by the rule of law, and our men and women always do. And yet we have too many people here in air-conditioned offices that like to point fingers at the guys in dark and dangerous places, the gals in helicopters in enemy territory who are doing things that people in Washington, D.C. would never dare to do, or send, in many cases.
In one of your interviews, you said they're willing to do this. You're talking about Donald Trump and Senator Cruz. They're willing to do something like waterboarding if it's going to keep us safe. Are you okay with waterboarding?
Senator, the law of the land is that waterboarding is not legal.
So the statement that you made, you now recant. Is that correct? They are willing to do something like waterboarding if it's going to keep us safe. You expressed that with approval.
Senator, I'm very familiar with that as a concept, having spent a year at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, guarding 700 of those that attacked us on 9/11.
I just want to be clear. Are we going to abide by the Geneva Convention and the prohibitions on torture, or are we not? Is it going to depend on the circumstances?
As I've stated multiple times, the Geneva Conventions are what we base ours. But what an American first national security policy is not going to do is hand its prerogatives over to international bodies that make decisions about how our men and women make decisions on the battlefield. America First understands we send Americans for a clear mission and a clear objective. We equip them properly for that objective. We give them everything they need, and then we stand behind them. with the rules of engagement that allow them to fight decisively
I understand.
to defeat America's
I
enemies,
just-
which is why we say
I just have a
quietly
few
and peacefully
seconds
in
left,
this
Mr.
conference
Hagseth,
room.
if you could. I was very disturbed in your opening statement where you talked about the priorities that you have. We will work with our partners and allies to deter aggression in the Indo-Pacific from the Communist Chinese. There's not a single mention in this statement about Ukraine or Russia. Is this code for we're going to abandon Ukraine?
Senator, the president, that's a presidential level policy decision. He's made it very clear that he would like to see a end to that conflict. We know who the aggressor is. We know who the good guy is. We'd like to see it as advantageous for the Ukrainians as possible, but that war needs to come to
You
an
talk a
end.
lot about deterrence of China. I would submit that Xi Jinping is watching what we do very carefully. If we abandon Ukraine, that would be the strongest signal possible to Xi Jinping that he can take Taiwan without significant resistance from this country.
Jesus himself would be ashamed of their depraved cruelty. There is no mercy, there is no turning the other cheek, nor loving your neighbor. They wrap themselves in their faith to shield themselves from attack, while weaponizing their religiosity for political ends.
Yep.
And then there's porn. Currently, there's a total of 16 states, 16, that have now approved legislation requiring pornographic websites to ask their users to prove that they are over 18 years old. And while many porn websites are combating these authoritarian, anti-freedom restrictions, many sites refuse to serve the states with restrictions, which is resulting in soft bans in some of these states. While many trash religious groups are playing a part in these laws, Christians are certainly leading the way.
Now, I know we talked about this one before, but wasn't so I know like it's been commonplace for a long time where they put a pop-up when you first get on it. It's like, are you 18? And you're like, yes. I'm like, all right, you're good. But this would be like, you have to like log in your ID.
Yes. To a third party that does ID verification for the porn website for the U.S. government. This
fucking
is
insane.
Currently in Florida, I believe. I think it's active in like 6 states, but as I said, 16 states have approved the legislation, and I think it's currently active in like 6.
It's fucking insane. Now, when it comes to immigration, you would think Christians would gladly demonstrate God's grace and help those in need. But did you know that God actually hates immigrants?
It's true.
Let's just say that the parable of the Good Samaritan doesn't apply to Mexicans. Nowadays, did you write this?
I forgot I wrote that, yeah. God's grace doesn't go north of the Rio.
You know what happened is usually if it's something that you wrote, I'll know it's that you wrote it because there's a bunch of typos because you're just furiously going at it and you just leave them because you're like, I'll get it. I know what.
Fuck it, yeah.
Nowadays, Christian nationalists want a country for Christians by Christians. Christian nationalists argue against immigration on the basis that a multi-ethnic society results in a multi-religious society. And if we want America to, quote, return to our Christian origins, we must preserve the white Christian populations while excluding others that could jeopardize America's future for the existence of their Christian children.
It's basically Hitler, but religious.
Yeah.
You know, Christian nationalism, right? It's just about embracing cultures that praise Christianity and excluding any culture that might jeopardize that, which, well, for many, I'm being generous and good faith here, for many, this is genuine in the sense that they truly want to exclude others on the basis of religion.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that's like 60%, and then the other 40% use it as a pretext to exclude based on race.
Yeah.
But this is what the rise of Christian nationalism would result in. It would result in exclusion of non-white, non-Christian people, and people like Pete Hagseth who control our military and are alcoholics and signal war plans and leak them to the press on accident is a Christian nationalist who believes these things. Now, this last one, this is just for kicks, but it certainly highlights the depraved hypocrisy of the Christian political leadership. Donald Trump's former spiritual advisor was just indicted last week for child sex crimes. And maybe that's why he moved on to Paula White.
Probably. I would
Might have
love
something to do with it.
I'm sure there was some, he was lined up for the job and caught a charge.
It was a consideration. Yeah.
As we do have some breaking news to take you out to. Just into our newsroom, Gateway Church founder Robert Morris has been indicted on child sex charges. Again, here's what we know from our Fox 4 team. Robert Morris was indicted yesterday by an Oklahoma federal grand jury on 5 counts of lewd or indecent acts with a child. The indictment says the abuse began around Christmas Day back in 1982. That document says Morris, quote, did intentionally touch or feel with his hand the body or private parts of CC, who was 12 years old at that time.
Robert Morris, the Dallas area megachurch pastor who resigned last year amid sexual abuse allegations, has been indicted in Oklahoma for child sex crimes that date back to the 1980s.
But it's no big deal, guys. I'm sure he'll catch a pardon.
Oh no, we gotta pardon that guy. We gotta go easy on him. We gotta get him back out here so we can protect the kids.
God told Trump he was forgiven, so...
Yeah.
Now, Morris is a former spiritual advisor to President Donald Trump and Gateway, one of the nation's largest megachurches, which has been particularly active in politics. In 2020, Trump held a roundtable on transition to greatness there that was attended by then U.S. Attorney General William Barr and other prominent Republican traitors.
Morris faces 5 counts of lewd or indecent acts with a child.
Nice. In conclusion, there's no hypocrisy as vile and cruel as a Republican Christian. While the religious right blame the decay of our country on illegal immigrants, the truth is that Christians are the true poison in our nation's bloodstream. For those who may have forgotten the true doctrine of their dog shit faith, I would remind you of your precious 10 commandments.
Number 1, you shall have no other gods before me. But Republicans have developed a bizarre cult-like worship of Donald Trump as a messianic figure in American politics. Quote, I am the chosen one, says the man facing 3 additional criminal trials in the coming months.
These were this is from a website from the past, and I don't want to say the website because it had some weird racist shit on it.
Oh, yeah, cool.
But this was when he was facing the criminal trials. But don't worry, he got rid of those by corruption.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Number 2, you shall not make any graven image. But Republicans are making golden statues to idolize Donald Trump. And they sell them too.
Number 3, you shall not use the Lord's name in vain. Somebody forgot to tell Donald Trump, quote, if you don't support me, Trump said at a campaign rally, quote, you're going to be so goddamn poor you're not going to believe
it. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. But when Trump was in office, it seems he never attended church. Except for holidays, funerals, and photo ops. He was too busy golfing, tweeting, and attending parties instead.
Number 5, honor your father and your mother. In 1927, Donald Trump's father, Fred Trump, was arrested at a Ku Klux Klan rally in New York City. We'll give him a pass on that commandment. Like father, like son.
Also, like to point out, so far in this second term, he's golfed 1/3 of his days in office.
It's fucking insane.
How do you destroy the world so much and golf so much at the same time? It's reckless.
What's really funny is someone pointed out, like, when he was campaigning the first time in 2016, he ragged on Obama so much for how much he golfed. And he was like, I'll never golf. I'm saying goodbye to all these people that I knew at these golf courses because I'll never see them again. And then proceeded to, in his first term, golfed way more than Obama ever did.
I forget the name of the book, but there's a whole book somebody wrote just about all the ways Trump cheats at golf. And it's supposed to be very funny. Also, you remember that time when Obama was almost impeached for wearing the wrong color suit?
Yeah, for wearing a khaki suit.
Bro, times have changed fast, dude. Number 6, you shall not murder. Quote, I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, Trump once said. And quote, I wouldn't lose any voters.
I would bomb the out of him.
I don't know if he's done it, but he's certainly thought about it. And Trump loves to celebrate people that mow down protesters because there's always good people on both sides. Plus,
of course,
he's got the death penalty back in action. So,
oh yeah, he's all cool with killing people.
Super cool. And we just
number 7
bombed the fuck out of Yemen.
Oh yeah,
no one knows why. That's just side missions, like Grand Theft Auto. You just take. Like, Republicans love to be like, no new wars, bro. Like, he's the president of peace. He was the last. Dude's, like, bombed so many people.
Number 7, you shall not commit adultery. Is there anybody in politics today who's committed more adultery than Donald Trump?
No.
The man had an affair with a Playboy playmate while his wife was pregnant. He was just ordered to pay $83 million for defaming a woman he sexually abused.
And then he refused to stop talking about how he didn't sexually assault her after the courts proved that he was liable for doing so.
Yeah.
And then he had to pay more money. And if you really want to get some laughs in, just go to Donald Trump's sexual abuse Wikipedia page. One of the, besides grabbing by the pussy, and I think it's like 18 women that have alleged assault cases by him against them. The most famous case before he ran for politics is a woman started. I can't remember if it was criminal or whatever. She started a case against him for sexual assault, and she was 13 or 14. This was before he ran for office at all.
I came to this interview on my free will. No, there was nothing promised to me for doing this interview.
Excellent.
Yes, everything that I say at this interview will be the truth. I met Donald Trump at some parties I attend that I was working for Mr. Jeffrey Epstein. There was about 3 or 4 times that I had encounters with Donald Trump. I was 13. The first time that I met Donald Trump was at a party at Jeffrey Epstein's mansion. There was an orgy going on, and he was kind of watching off in the distance. And he basically asked if I could come over and give him a hand job.
This guy has a big history of things much worse than adultery, but that's just what happens.
Yeah,
that's just our president. He loves Epstein.
Yeah, he's the president of the free world.
Dude, do what you want.
And he was convicted of 34 felonies after paying hush money to a porn star.
Number 8, you shall not steal. The guy stole money from the students of his fake university, has ripped off fake charities, and was just fined nearly $500 million for all his business fraud. This man has the largest crypto scam ever.
Yeah.
To the point, and he hasn't stolen the money yet, but we all know the drop, I think it's in like 2 weeks or whatever, the first opportunity for a rug pull. It is the biggest crypto theft of all times. If it goes how it's very much expected, the people that bought into the crypto scam got no ownership, essentially, no perks, no whatever. And It was basically a doorway for anonymous bribery from anyone, anywhere in the world. And as that crypto scam has been going on, we also ended the prosecution against all crypto thefts and digital scam stuff. Like the FBI's division on cryptocurrency scams is gone/gutted. The Haktua girl, her case was dropped. He pardoned a bunch of other crypto scammers, and it's all to make way for his big scam, the scam of all scams that our president is doing now.
Well, you know, he's got to pay all that money to the lady he raped.
Porn stars, yeah. That too, yeah.
Number 9, you shall not lie. In 4 years as president, Trump told 30,000 lies in office.
In the first term.
Do you know how efficient you have to be to tell that many lies in public in one term? That's 21 lies a day. Trump is like the Tom Brady of lying. The line is insane. Even if he only slept 3 hours a night, that's a lie every hour. And, and who knows how many lies he told in private.
Number 10, you shall not covet your neighbor's property or your neighbor's wife. In the infamous Access Hollywood tape, Trump told Billy Bush that he once met a married woman and, quote, moved on her like a bitch.
Didn't he also say something about how he wanted to have sex with his daughter?
He said that in an interview on Howard Stern, and then again on another interview. Again in another interview where he just talked about how hot she was.
Said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop. You know what? You are sick.
Far from protecting his daughter from being talked about as a sex object, he has encouraged it multiple times. On Howard Stern's radio show in 2004 and then again in 2006.
By the way, your daughter, she's beautiful. Can I say this? A piece of ass. Yeah. She looks more voluptuous than ever.
She's actually always been very voluptuous. She's tall. She's almost 6 feet tall.
In May, Ivanka described herself as a feminist while defending her father on CBS after a scathing New York Times article about his alleged negative treatment of women.
Is there unending commentary on the female form?
No. I've known my father, obviously, my whole life, and he has total respect for women.
Please welcome the lovely Ivanka Trump.
Still, even Ivanka seemed confused when talk show host Wendy Williams asked about things the two have in common.
What's the favorite thing you have in common with your father?
Either real estate or golf.
Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex, but I can't relate that.
Donald Trump has always been proud of his daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Also in the Stern one, he talked about how he would peek backstage at the little girls in the swimsuits while they're naked.
Just walk on back there when all these young girls are changing. Yeah, that's cool.
President.
Such comments might have tripped up other candidates, but Trump's inflammatory rhetoric hasn't seemed to hurt him with Republican voters.
He's not a politician. He owes nobody. And I know he's brash and can sound rude, but he's saying the things that we want to hear.
Trump can't hold a Bible right, much less read it, much less understand it. He's a disgrace to his pretend faith and a traitor to this nation. The reality is that he is a con man, just like his megachurch pastors and religious donors. They destroy our country and disgrace their God for greed. It's all a pay-for-prayer scam, just an elaborate sales pitch to sell $59.99 Trump Bibles.
And the Republican Christians are the only people stupid enough to buy the slop. No gods, no masters, crucify all Christians.
Amen.
Amen, brother. Woo! Ba, 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 ba.
You have to put that track in there now with me singing along to it.
I just hate him so much, dude.
It's fully infuriating. It's just embarrassing to be alive sometimes.
That they are our masters.
Yeah.
I deny them. I shall not kneel.
Of course.
But Christian rule it's undeniable. And it is subtle. You know, I know we're speaking from a position of strength, right? We're being a bit hyperbolic and very antagonistic, but it is subtle. But religiosity, it is the lie, is the first lie these people learn. And it is the lie they tell to rule, right? Like, it is how they get people to follow them, and it is the guise that they use to control them. And all the ways in which it is influencing the government, even prior to this, like when we were kids, was disgusting and hypocritical and absolutely not true separation of church and state. But today, these things are indistinguishable. Trump and MAGA, it will be whatever they want it to be. And this includes, because their voter bloc is primarily evangelical, but the country at large is Christian, it includes manipulating Christian values to their political ends. And they've done so efficiently with things such as the White House Faith Office, which, to be frank, we're probably not going to see all that much out of it for the next whatever years of his presidency. But it's a pretext to bring in evangelical leadership and voices into his presidency. It's for cutting deals with the televangelist groups. It's a way to spread immigration policy and abortion policy to a mass of people that support it and support him and Republican leadership. And more than anything, I know there's so many different ways to attack this presidency and this Republican Party. And I encourage all of those ways. But from the religious facet, it angers me by far the most, because they do not reflect the religion they propose they defend. Mm-hmm. They use their religion as a sword and not a shield. Everything they do and stand for is at odds with the things they believe. Their philosophical views of this world and what our country is supposed to be is in direct contradiction with the beliefs they say they believe in. And I just cannot get over, like, hypocrisy on its own. Like, we all have a natural inclination to feel like something's off when someone's being hypocritical. Like, you lose legitimacy, that your things aren't lining up in what you say versus what you do. But it by itself is not necessarily condemnable. Like, you can believe in something and not live up to a standard. But when you believe in something and then you do things that are at odds with it, that are directly against those things, it just, it really bothers me. Like, ethically.
It's a crucifiable act.
I truly believe so. Like, these people, they don't have a place in our world. They want their heaven, and I think they should be granted
we can bring that to them. Stephen, I have some good news to end this episode on, to wrap everything up.
Please.
Unfortunately, it may be too late for the listeners to scoop in on this deal, because it may be coming out after the Easter holiday. But it has been announced that the Chief Faith Advisor, Paula White, is selling 7 supernatural blessings for Easter season gifts of $1,000 or more.
Oh,
for just $1,000, you can get 7 supernatural blessings.
Do I get angels from Africa or heavenly brain?
Neither of those. Got? So let's see here.
Damn.
So she bases her promise of 7 blessings for the gift of $1,000 on Exodus 23, which ironically begins with these 3 words, or with these words. Quote, "You shall not spread a false report.
Nice.
You shall not join hands with the wicked to act as a malicious witness. You shall not follow a majority in wrongdoing. When you bear witness in a lawsuit, you shall not side with the majority so as to pervert justice."
Dude,
and then states in verse 9, "You shall not oppress a resident alien. You know the heart of an alien, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt.
Jesus.
So that's fun.
It's like purposely ironic.
Yeah. She takes God's promise to the children of Israel and applies it today for those who give her $1,000 or more. All this can be yours, she says, if you bring, quote, a Passover offering to the house of the Lord. She then relates this testimony from one of her followers named Alfred. I sowed a seed as a result of the teaching of giving during the Passover season. As a result, my unemployment benefits were restored and increased this past week. My family and I are being provided for. Spiritual blessings are evident. I believe the 7 blessings are being manifested in me, and I believe the full restoration will take place in my life, career, child, and service to the Lord. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is seeking to cut benefits for the poorest Americans, such as Alfred. But wait, there's more. With your gift of $1,000 or more, White will send you a 10-inch high Waterford cross, plus some devotionals and an olive wood communion set from the Holy Land. That special set contains unleavened bread and grape juice from the Holy Land.
God.
2 beautiful olive wood communion cups and a booklet, her advertisement says. With these items in hand, quote, you can join Paula in taking communion during our special Good Friday online global communion service on Easter.
This woman has a political position in our government, and they're bragging about taking $1,000 for a blessing from a man on unemployment.
Now, I will say what I just read here is from Baptist. It's from Baptist News Global, and they are torching her.
God,
they are like, hey, this is fucking ridiculous.
Imagine being a Christian that condemns other dumber Christians. Like, I'm the smartest dumbass in the herd. It's so crazy.
Hey, at least I'm not this fucking crazy.
Yeah, holy shit. Oh, that was funny, man. Can you imagine how dumb you have to be on unemployment to pay for prayers from a rich pastor?
To be on unemployment and then
scamming the government.
$1,000 to get this cross. And I mean, if you're getting anything at all, you're getting a cross and
some stale bread,
some grape juice, and some bread. Yeah, some stale bread.
And you know that
cups.
That water did not come from where they said it did. Of course.
Of course not. From the Holy Land.
Yeah, it's more along
it doesn't say
swamp.
A place.
It's from the swamp.
It's fucking Welch's.
Dude, that's so funny. Well,
thanks again for listening, everybody.
Yeah, I hope you guys hate these people as much as we do, and at the very least, we hope we gave you a couple more reasons to harvest that anger into little tiny packages. You know?
Hey, if it fits, it ships. Thank you to Approaching Human for the use of his music. You can find his work on SoundCloud at Approaching-Human.
Thanks, John.
Make sure to check out the show page at Trash Cats Trashcast on Instagram for news and art from the show. Check out Facebook for the memes.
For the memes, if you're super bored, you can check out my trashy art on Instagram at Skyzix, SKYCACX. And appreciate you guys. Super rad, super cool. Got some fun stuff on the way. We're playing with, there was a local psychic convention in town. We might play with that a little bit. Got some other research stuff. Just appreciate you guys sticking around and being really, really cool. Thank you.
Hell yeah. That's going to be all for us today. Stay classy, eat trashy.
Go fast, eat trash. It'll be like a snappy pappy.
Nice.